Today I just wanted to talk through, I think it's deemed Hiring 101 or Recruitment 101, and also there was a feature as well just on the LinkedIn profile. For those of you that just joined the room, my fellow colleague Lisa from the Communications Department did a bit of a presentation and highlighted social media and the importance of social media in building a brand in the organisation. I'm going to highlight it as building our own individual brand within, I guess, our professional sphere. So today I'll start by talking about recruitment. I was told I had 15 minutes, so I'm trying to run through this as quickly as possible, and normally I slide you into the shock of the next slide. But I think what's really important before we actually go into talking about recruitment is how expensive it is to make a wrong selection decision. So I'm sure there's lots of faces out there that are sort of nodding, going, yes, I've either accepted the wrong job before, or perhaps you've also selected the wrong person, and you know how expensive it is to recruit. And that's why we need to get it right. So as I said, I normally shock you in one by one, but I will move to the next slide. So the cost, and this is the average cost of making a wrong selection decision for someone that you're hiring at an average salary of around $80,000. As we know, within our space, we obviously recruit staff at a different category, lower and both higher. So you can imagine the cost to our organisation, to our budgets, particularly when we're trying to be lean in our budgeting. But the cost obviously is significant if you make the wrong selection choice. You need to consider the time it takes for you to advertise, the people involved in the interview process, the reference checking process, both yourself and the person doing the reference. You need to think about the time that you've lost in productivity. So if someone has left and you don't have a replacement, what does that mean for your service or for your team? Also the time lost when you're actually using resources to train others. So the cost is significant. So Recruitment 101, today I'm just going to step you briefly through five key steps. And I think too often we actually think recruitment is, oh, someone's left, I better just quickly backfill and fill them with that same position, same skill as quickly as possible. I like to think though that there are a couple more steps involved in order for you to make the right choice if you do have a vacancy. It's really important that you prepare, you attract, you assess if you've made the right person, you've got the right person, that you obviously select that right person, and that you onboard them correctly. So when you think about preparation, you need to assess your position. Time and time after again, I have hiring managers come to me saying, so-and-so's left, I need to backfill them. I say to them, do you need to backfill them? Have you thought about what it is that you actually want to backfill? I think it's really important that you think about, is this a position that you need moving forward? Sometimes vacancies are actually an opportunity for you to redefine what you actually want within your team and redefine perhaps the service that you wanted to deliver. So think about, do you want to replace or reinvent the position? Always, I think this is also another, and perhaps something you might have seen on our site in the past and hopefully not moving forward, position descriptions that perhaps are very lengthy. And sometimes if you look at a role and you think, oh my God, there's 3 role responsibilities, but there's 20 must-haves. I can't possibly apply for this role, I don't fit the criteria. So it's really important that you look at the position description and make sure that this isn't a laundry list of all your must-haves. You must have this, 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 and this, and therefore, when you think about the candidate that's looking at that role, whether or not they're actually going to put in their application, you might actually be losing talent by suggesting that your laundry list of must-haves is quite extensive. I also think about, you need to think about who do you want to attract. So put yourself in their shoes and think about what will attract them. Again, time and time again, I'm the person that supports eRecruit for those of you that ask for jobs to be posted on dental jobs. And you might have had some feedback from me recently because I'm getting a little bit more ballsy in my approach and saying, well, is that really what you want us to post? Do you want us actually to add a little bit more about, what it is that you're looking for? What are the characters of that person? What is it that you have to offer as an agency? And what are the key selling messages? So if someone was out there looking at that advert, what would make them put their application in, and are they going to be the right person? And also think about your timeframes and your availability. This happens with me in the organisation, and it's a tough one. We all really want to fill the position that's available, but because we're so bogged down with the fact that we have a vacancy, we're not actually making the time to get back to the candidates in a really timely manner. Sometimes we don't have availability to interview. So often when you have a vacancy, you need to think about, right, my position's going to be open for 2 weeks. Following that, I'm going to have a week of screening. So the week after that, I need to think about when I have some time in my diary to be able to interview. Particularly with our clinicians, obviously their main priority is meeting with patients, and quite often or not, patient books are filled up for weeks and weeks and weeks. So it becomes very difficult then to backfill and give yourself some help, and obviously get the right people then in your team to support the patient. So I always suggest that you have a think about that. In terms of attracting, I like to think of us as an organisation, or us, whoever is recruiting, to think about where would the best candidate be. And again, we always think, oh, we'll just post that job on Seek. We'll just post it on Seek and hope for the best. Recently, you might have seen DHSV has gone through quite a large recruitment drive, and we will continue to do so thanks to the NPA. But we don't necessarily just post on Seek. About 30% of the recent hires in the last 6 months have come from LinkedIn. About 25% have come from referrals or from general networks. That's just, two sourcing avenues. It's not necessarily all of the others that we can utilise. So I've put up here just a broad amount of strategies that you can look at, and not all of them are expensive. Lisa again highlighted our Facebook page. We will post your job on Facebook. Lisa's, the communications team has tweeted jobs so that people out there will actually know what positions are available. They're free and anyone can use them. We're happy to advocate for you, particularly when you've got an open position. Dental Jobs obviously is free. We also have a corporate LinkedIn account, and again, I know I've posted for multiple community agencies to try and get their positions out, particularly within the professional sector, because obviously there is quite a high portion of professional workers on LinkedIn. But there's other ways in which you can obviously go about making sure people know that your job is vacant, and making sure obviously you're casting your net as far as possible so that you get the right person through the door. In terms of assessment, this is, I guess, I hope I have a good reputation within DHSV, but I've certainly made our recruitment process a lot more rigorous. And for those that have gone through the redeployment activities that Nikki spoke about and Deb touched on earlier, we have actually developed some systems in which we actually are looking at the candidates that come through and making sure that do they have the right commitment, do they have the right motivations for working here, do they have the right competencies, do they have the right technical skills. So historically, I guess there has been a little bit of an ad hoc process. Some people do it really well, some I'm so desperate, you meet the mark, you speak, we get on, you've got the credentials, you're in. And it doesn't always work out well. So I like to think that we put a little bit more rigour around the assessment phase in order for you to make sure that you've got the right person. So in terms of assessment, this is just some ideas around what we do and what might work for the position that you're recruiting. In terms of a phone screen, too often or not, we actually bring in candidates and we think, oh, yep, you've met the selection criteria, you look good, I spoke to you briefly on the phone, I'll get you to come in. And then you spend so much time meeting with people face to face when really you can't afford them. Maybe they don't have the right motivation, they don't fit the hours or the schedule. So it's really important that during the phone screen, you take that time also to go through and make sure they're the right candidate for you then to meet with. Interviews, so maybe it's one or maybe it's two, and obviously we try and make sure we have a collaborative approach at DHSV because obviously we all work together. So it's really important. Some roles obviously are very clinical and very technical, and that makes sense, but where possible we like to try and engage others so that we get the right team fit. Where it's required, assessments, realistic job preview, so if you have the opportunity to walk around and show them this is where you'll be working, this is the sort of role that you're getting yourself into, then obviously that's a real advantage. And then obviously the reference check and credentialing phase. One thing I do want to highlight is obviously during the assess phase that we obviously do have our legal requirements. I have sat in interviews and I've heard interviewers say, and I'm not saying in this role, just in my history as a recruiter, you know, oh, how old are you? Do you have kids? And I'm like, I don't need to know this. I was even interviewed and someone said to me, tell me 3 things I can't find on your resume. And I was like, why? Because all of the relevant details are there. For me to be able to do this job, it's available for you. So I just caution you to be really careful around how you interview and make sure that you fit within our legislative requirements. And then in terms of selection, make sure that your notes align to the selection criteria, that you extend a verbal offer, and obviously my little point there is you would have set the expectations around what was on offer and made sure you had the right candidate, so you won't have declines when you get to this stage. Extend the contract and make sure that you provide all updates to unsuccessful candidates. I think this is something that's not done well. I'm sure we've all applied for roles and never heard from the organisation. You might have even gone in for an interview and have no idea what happened with your application. So I think from a branding point of view, it's only right for us to let the applicants know. So Onboard, this is sort of the last slide that I'll go through in terms of the selection process, and it's just really to highlight the fact that we need to make sure that we actually prepare for our staff to start with us. Think about before the employee starts to make sure that they're excited, that they know where they're going, that they know where car parking is, how to get there, etc., etc. Make sure that when they walk in on the first day, that they meet the team, that the facilities and resources are there, and that obviously they have a great experience because you want them to be there. You've gone through all of that legwork, so you want them to stay with you. I have a handout for you as well, just because, as I said, I touched on LinkedIn, and I think it's a really important tool for you as an individual and to develop your own professional network. And this handout, please grab one, is just around building your brand. Nikki, do you mind handing? Building your brand on LinkedIn. So for those of you that don't have a LinkedIn account, I think it's a great way of networking. It's an online resume. It's not about necessarily always finding a job, but it's about connecting with peers. You can share free messages. You can obviously advertise your roles. You can refer people. It's just a really great way of staying in contact. As you can see here, there's 225 million members worldwide. There's 4.3 million members in Australia, and they have 900,000 unique visitors per week. It's a great way in terms of connecting. It's a great way of being found by others. It's a great way of advertising what you do and showcasing some of the work that you do. And it's a great way for others to be able to network with you as well. So this is really towards the end of my, I don't want to go too much about being hired because we hope that you're satisfied in your role and you're not using LinkedIn to find another job, but it is a great way in terms of tapping talent that perhaps isn't actively looking. It's an online headhunting tool essentially. It's a great way to market yourself and sell yourself, and it's a great way to sell your organisation. So I hope at the end of this that you all connect with me on LinkedIn. I've had about 10 folks in the last couple of days from the dental space, which is really exciting, connect with me. So I hope that you connect and that we slowly build our network and we obviously can continue the communication. So again, this is just short presentation. So thank you very much. Hopefully it was quick and brief and informative.